Hello, team service preparation. Welcome to National Flooring Equipment's small spaces demonstration that we're going to hold today for the next couple of hours. We're going to talk about small machines, small spaces, and how to find the best solution for small spaces with small equipment. For you guys just first joining us, if you don't know anything about National Flooring Equipment has been around since 1968. We are a family-owned business, and if anybody's paying attention to what's going on in this industry lately, a lot of small companies, they're being bought up by big conglomerates. We're really proud that that we still care about the equipment that we build, our customers, our customer service. We don't want to be indistinguishable like those companies that are just one big group. We have multiple touch points with the contractors and our distribution points that use our equipment, and that's one of the things that we take a lot of joy in. So if anybody has questions as we go through this, my marketing department, which is amazing, is standing behind the camera. You guys can live chat in questions, and they will feed those questions to us, and we will answer your questions. And hopefully you guys can ask some questions that we can't answer. That's the goal, is find something that we can't answer. Joining me today is Matt Segura. He's our VIP guest. Thank you, Matt, for joining us. Matt's been with National for a very long time. He's an industry expert. He knows the equipment. He knows the applications. He knows the solutions. So this is a chance for you guys to have another point of contact through National moving forward. If you have questions or if you need anything, we're all working together to help you guys find the best solutions. So with that introduction, we're going to kind of just move right into talking about small spaces, access to small spaces, what some of your options are. So surface prep a lot of times for National falls into the category of removing something that's on top of the surface before you can prep it. So with that in mind, we're going to start with some of our small scrapers, and then we'll kind of shift into grinders and shot blasters for the prep side of it for small spaces.
So Dave, if I can interject,
Please do.
Anytime you're starting a project, anytime at all, one of the most important things to ask yourself and ask your customer, ask your crew is, what are you taking up and what are you putting down? Right there, those two questions will help determine which machine is going to be the fastest, most efficient to get the job done that you want to get done.
Thanks, Matt. When we talk about small spaces, a lot of times you guys think of residential, and that's very true. That's probably a huge section on a pie chart of what's considered small spaces. But even if you have large equipment, ride-on, battery-powered scrapers, large grinders, these smaller machines still become what we refer to as companion machines. So if you're doing a huge office building, you're still going to have small bathrooms or small closets or entryway spaces where people coming into the building are greeted, where there's counters and things that can't be moved, where the bigger machines really can't be utilized for that. So keep that in mind. So if you're a contractor doing large spaces, this is still applicable because these companion machines always go hand in hand with the bigger machines. And it's true, a lot of guys start with small machines and they grow their businesses into the larger. But as you grow into the larger machines, you still find a need for smaller equipment for access to smaller spaces, especially if you're the kind of guy that's looking to do basements.
Absolutely.
You gotta have something small enough and light enough that you can get it into the basement, because there's not going to be an elevator. So you've got to have something light enough to get it down there safely, do the work quickly, efficiently, and then get it back up the stairs just as equally as easily.
And sometimes you're even talking weight restrictions if you're doing office buildings, high-rise residential, if you're in older buildings in different parts of the country. The freight elevators have restrictions. You may not be able to get a rider in there, so your choice may be to have to step into one of these machines.
And I don't want to talk about weight restrictions, so let's talk about two of National's smallest scrapers. And kind of, you want to go farther up? These are two of National's smaller solution machines for being able to move up and down stairs, or to be able to load it into a vehicle if you don't have access to a trailer, or you just need to be able to have something lightweight and really small. The hammer trolley, the power hammer, is great. You actually can put any bit that Hilti sells to put on their hammer. So we're actually going to run some of this equipment too, so you guys can see it. Talk's cheap. We just want to briefly kind of go over some of the features and benefits of why it's good for small spaces. Then we're going to plug them in and turn them on so you guys can see how they work. Obviously, the downside to the hammer trolley is it is loud.
Very loud.
So if you're working in a space where noise is an issue, like an operating office building, a hospital, something along those lines, it can be a big negative check mark. But as far as being lightweight and portable, this machine's amazing for lightweight and portable. If noise is an issue and you still need to actually get some work done in a small space, this National 550, it's a manual machine, but it actually comes with, you have the availability of using a 2-inch carbide shank for taking up tile, mostly in residential. So don't oversell this machine to yourself, guys.
No.
You're not going to take this into a McDonald's and take up the old 3x9 tiles that are down with epoxy mortar thin set. It's not going to work for that. But the tile in my wife's kitchen, bathroom, standard residential, this works fantastic for that. You can also put self-scoring blades or winged blades on it for taking up old laminate. I had a house in Oklahoma years ago that had tons of laminate in it. It was horrible, but it was glued down really well. It'd been there since probably in the 80s. I just put a wing blade on a 550, stripped it all up in strips, and then I went ahead and polished my my floors after that. It was a great tool for that. It was small. My house wasn't very big. It's not the lifestyles rich and famous. So this machine was small enough I could maneuver around in the kitchen in the small spaces and still remove the glue with razor blades after. So when I started grinding, it sped up the process. The handle's removable on this, and the front weight just has twist and you pull it off. So once again, I could easily, with Matt's help, pick this up and put it in the back of a little Dodge Neon or any kind of small vehicle. So it's also very popular in the rental world because there's so many guys that want to do DIY, and a hand scraper just isn't going to cut it. It does have National's patented orbital action. So instead of the blade making a striking motion similar to a hammer, it actually cuts almost what you'd think of as like a figure 8. So it's going to cut left, right, middle, left, right, middle. So when I turn it on, you guys will see that it vibrates and it helps move it along the surface. And if I get stuck, it has a kick plate. So if I hit something that's really stuck really well, I'm just going to give it a little kick and keep it moving around. I can change the pitch and the angle. Can also change the pitch and the angle of the power hammer as well. So depending on what you're taking up, just depending on how you want to hit it. So let's plug these in real quick and do some just real quick demonstrations so you guys can hear how loud or how quiet they are. But you can also see that they're both very effective. We have flat blades, so behind me, if it's all right with you, Nick, I'm just gonna take up some vinyl composite tile, some VCT. It's been stuck here for quite a while. We removed some of it, but we drive cars and trailers in here, and it's stuck pretty well. So should be a good demonstration. Let's start with the, do you want me to come towards you, Nick, so you can see it? Do you want me to come towards you?
No.
Oh. Or do you want me to, Connie, do you want me to come up and come this direction? Or do you want to go this way? Thanks, Matt, for
You're very welcome.
helping me move stuff around. You're hired. Matt's been around here a long time, and he's one of our favorite national employees. It's great having him. All right. So you guys can see it works really well, but it's really loud.
Super loud.
We're in a super big warehouse here, training space, and if I was going to run this, I'd definitely have to have some ear protection because it's really loud. But it works, and I can also put a small bit and take up ceramic tile. You guys want to do that while we got it plugged in? Is that all right? Is it sticky?
There we go.
Probably could use some grease. Go ahead and put it in there. I'll turn the hammer. Oh, actually, Matt, let me turn it the other way.
So another good advantage of the hammer trolley is a lot of you folks probably already have a heavy hammer like this. It just gives you a little more versatility with that tool.
You guys ready? So you guys can see it's quick and versatile. I can change my bits pretty quickly and tackle lots of small projects really quickly. And this is a pretty inexpensive setup. National doesn't sell the Hilti hammer, but we do sell the trolley itself. All right, let's fire up the 550. Yeah, we're going to just do some VCT real quick. Right there's perfect. Sure. Ready? So you guys see how quiet this is? Super quiet.
The advantage to that is working in or next to occupied spaces. With the hammer trolley, it's just too darn loud. And the nice thing about this is you could work, if you're working in multiple unit housing, stuff like that, you can actually work in one unit without disturbing anybody else in the general area.
And I just want everybody to see that this glue is nasty. It's not just laying there with gravity. This is the glue that sticks to your gloves, your shoes, all over your machine, your blades. It's a lot of fun. So remember, if anybody has questions as we're going through the equipment and why we're talking about it, the live chat, why we're on live, is available. Please chat in your questions. Nick Stefanski is watching the chat. He is in charge of the chat from our marketing. He will tell us if there's a question, and we'll repeat the question and answer it. After you remind me, right? After you remind me to repeat it. And I challenge you guys to ask questions that that try to stump us. That's the fun.
Yeah.
Last time we had 20 questions, and one guy's question I couldn't answer. I had to go look it up. So bring on the questions. No. My shoes are heavy enough. But once it's stuck, I mean, this glue is nasty. It's not my favorite thing on the planet. Okay, so we talked about the smallest end of scrapers. We're going to step up just a little bit.
Looks like I would assume Becky or somebody from National is asking to talk about the 550 and if it has a chisel or ceramic.
It does. Matter of fact, I can show that. I will.
So the 550, like Dave said earlier, it's a good, versatile, all-around tool for small projects. Again, I would not recommend bringing that into McDonald's or any hospitality, because it's a lightweight machine. It just doesn't have the oomph to be able to take up large format tiles. But in most any residential DIY type of operation,
Suck it in.
it'll work most of the time.
This is a 2-inch carbide shank that goes on the 550. Great question.
Okay.
And if you guys want to talk a little bit more about the versatility, you can also put a swivel head attachment on your 550 and this 5280 that allows the swivel head will allow the blade to stay in contact with the surface while the machine's moving. So once you get a lot of VCT or tile, this swivels and allows the blade to stay flat while the machine wheels are transversing over the material that's built up and all around it. This is also available to hold a razor blade, so there's 2 separate swivel head attachments. One for standard blades and one that is designed to take actual razor blades. Why would you use razor blades is a question I get asked a lot. When you order one, you get a pack of 50, so they're definitely a consumable, but they are really, really good at scraping any glue that gets left behind, especially the sticky glue. They're fantastic for that.
Yeah.
You just have to have the right blade holder because they're so thin and they're so short. You want the gap to fit the razor blade.
Do you want to show this?
Yeah, later. We can do that now. So while we're talking about razor blades, and some tooling, because this is actually a popular question. Do I have a razor blade? Oh yeah, right here. In the catalog, we sell 1-inch blades and razor blades. The difference is they're both very short. A razor blade I can bend, and a 1-inch blade is actually a .09 4 blade that I cannot bend. So what's the difference? A 1-inch blade is fantastic for taking up really thick epoxies or thin set that's on the floor. A little bit later, we'll show you guys how to wet down the thin set and take it up. And I recommend a 1-inch blade for those applications every time. Also, I found in my experience that there's guys out there doing freezers, a lot of ice buildup, a lot of manufacturing where they have fiberglass built up on the floor.
Paint.
The 1-inch blades work amazing for that type of application. You can even use these on the riders. And once again, you have to have the right kind of holder. And how can you tell the difference? And I'm going to show you guys how to tell the difference. If Connie can zoom in, this is a standard blade holder, swivel head, and this is a razor blade. If I put this 1 inch in this one, it basically disappears because it disappears. It's too deep. On the razor blade, you guys can see it's very narrow, so it's going to stick out quite a bit. So this one is a razor blade head attachment. This is a standard head attachment. A lot of times you'll get different swivel head attachments with different machines, especially with your ride-on machine. If you want the ability to use a 1-inch blade or razor blade, you need to specifically order the razor blade swivel head attachment. And side by side, you can definitely see the difference. You guys see that? All right, great. That's why I took them apart so you could see. And I also normally paint my razor blade swivel head attachments like pink or purple, so if I go to grab them out of the trailer or off the shelf, I know for sure that that's a razor blade swivel head attachment, not my standard one. Thanks, Nick. Was there any other questions on that? Nope. Okay, great. We're going to talk about the 5280. This is really a starter machine for small spaces because it is a self-propelled, hydraulically self-propelled machine, but it's still somewhat lightweight, but it only has a forward feature. It doesn't have a reverse, but you can pull it backwards, and I'm going to show you guys how to run this. It's also very quiet, but your production compared to a manual machine is much better for soft goods. You do not have the ability to put a carbide shank and take up ceramic tile with this machine. It's not what it's designed for. The 5280 is really designed for small spaces and soft goods only. Soft goods, we talk about hard goods, soft goods. Soft goods are carpet, VCT, laminate, glue, thin set after you've already broken up the tile. Linoleum. Anything that's soft goods. All right, y'all want to fire it up? They're laughing, and I assume they're laughing at me back there. All right, let's try this. You want to run it, Matt?
Sure.
You need some sticky shoes. Yeah, watch the joint. Just go at an angle. There you go.
So the first thing you notice is this thing's incredibly quiet compared to any other machine, takeout machine. Turn this down a little bit.
Yeah, it's probably turned all the way up. It is speed controlled, so we can go slower or faster. Obviously, if you're popping up over the material, that probably means your blade's either too big or you're going too fast. Or it could be a combination of both. Go, go, Matt, go, go. Green, 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 clear high, clear high. Nice. This is a great machine because it's a fairly low cost machine, but it's a high production machine for what you're paying for it. It's why it hasn't really changed in a lot of years because it really works like you'd expect it to, and it does everything you want it to, and it's super affordable, so we continue to sell those. It's hard to get what you pay for in life. This is a perfect example of you get what you pay for. It is a forward drive machine, but you could put self-scoring blades on it or flat blades and get a ton of stuff done.
I know we sell a bunch of those into the smaller carpet stores where it's maybe a mom and pop. They service a lot of the residential and smaller commercial customers that love these. Like Dave said, it's great for soft goods.
Is there an advantage to not having reverse power?
Cost.
Yeah.
So
Repeat the
The question is there an advantage not to having a reverse? The only advantage to not having reverse is cost. If you compare the cost of a 5280 to like a Commander that has the forward and reverse option, there's a huge jump. It's kind of like buying a Ford Ranger versus a Ford F-250. They're both trucks, but just saying they're trucks doesn't really tell you the value of the difference between a Ford Ranger and an F-250. So the 5280 is like a Ford Ranger. I can still move firewood. I can still help my buddy move. I can still get truck stuff done, but I can't pull a 65-foot yacht with it. You're asking too much of it. So if you want to spend the money for an F-250, then you're going to get what you pay for with that, because you're going to step up and do a much higher production, more features, more benefits. This has a removable saddle weight, but once you move up to the Commander and the Gladiator, which we're going to step up to next, you get side slide weights, you get transport wheels,
adjustable handle.
yeah, foldable handles, forward and reverse. A 5280 is typically designed for somebody that's only going to do soft goods, and I have found in my experience there's a ton of guys out there that use a walk-behind scraper, we'll call it 10 times a year. So a majority of their time, it's sitting in the corner of their shop. But when they need it, they don't have time to go try to find one to rent, or the ones that are available in their small town aren't very effective scrapers. So it's such a low-cost machine, but it works so well that for it to sit in the corner of their shop for a majority of the year is fine with them. They're still getting the return on their investment. So that guy that's only going to use it 10 times a year may not step up to a Commander or Gladiator. Once a guy has a 5280 and he's used it some and he starts to use it more and more and more and more, and they use it every single day, they're trying to speed up the jobs, get more production, and they're looking for those features and benefits, they'll actually upgrade and then they'll buy a Commander, because now the Commander's offering more of what they need for the solutions that they're looking for.
Higher power, little higher power, higher
Yeah.
production rates, heavier weight, just some more added bells and whistles.
So as we're walking through and we're talking about small spaces, we're going to talk about the Commander and the Gladiator. These almost fall into small to medium spaces, because these are small spaces, but these machines also are really fit into light commercial, small industrial. These are for contractors that are scraping on a regular basis, and they need a machine that is going to be heavy enough, have enough features to get done what they need to do. 110 volt, hydraulically powered. It has the side slide weights like we talked about. So I can slide these weights forward and get more weight on my blade. So if I'm having a hard time staying underneath something that's stuck really well, I'm going to slide those forward. Just the opposite, I'm sure you guys have run into, big complaint is moisture remediation.
Yeah.
Gets under carpet, gets under this VCT, laminate, and that glue just turns into a slime, and you really struggle with traction. Nobody else in the industry seems to care about that. That's your problem, not theirs. Well, we do voice of the customer through our marketing department and lots of touch points. And moisture remediation is a big problem, especially with getting traction with these smaller machines. So we've actually incorporated siped wheels, which basically means there's little cuts in the tires that they're hard to see on video or looking at. But when you watch it run, you can see that it's grabbing, and it makes a big difference on the test we did. And the other thing that we've done is the side slide weight. So I can move these weights back and increase the amount of weight on my back wheels. So instead of it just spinning, it's going to grab and push through with that slimy, sticky glue. It's made a lot of guys out there looking for that solution very happy with those abilities to make those adjustments to the machine to make it work in those really tough environments, you guys, really tough. So
And another thing, on just to point out something else on the wheels. I mean, as you can see, if you're working on a project that's got a lot of that gooey, sticky, really nasty glue, one of the nice things about these machines, this one and the Gladiator, is there's an adjustable wheel scraper here on the back of each rear wheel that you can actually adjust up and down to help remove the adhesive or the crud as you're working, so you don't end up with super gummed up wheels, which can happen on the smaller machines.
certainly the pieces of VCT or even pieces of carpet that are small and stringy, they stick to the glue, they stick to the wheels, and then I've seen these other machines out there that they don't have wheel scrapers. So the problem is your machine's going and it's super hard to clean it off with a 5-in-1 tool or some other tool. They're adjustable, so I can get it really, really close, or I can give it a little more gap depending on what I'm trying to keep off the wheels. Super great feature to have. Right now, the machine it's in transport. It doesn't have the transport wheels on it, but if you guys saw, I just rolled it in. It's basically in freewheel right now, but we're gonna engage the drive pins, and I would assume that I'm on a job by myself. Here, Matt, I got it.
Yep.
I'm usually by myself on a job, so to install these pins, I usually just tip it. I'm super coordinated, so until you find the lock it in. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. I'm just gonna tilt it away from me just a little bit. Find until they line up. Lock it into place. And now I can't move it. This is also great for once it's in the trailer or in the back of your van. Now it's not gonna move because the wheels are locked. And if I'm transporting it, I always take the transport wheels off of it once it's right before I strap it down. But I put my transport wheels on it before I load it or unload it, off of a trailer or down a ramp. So now it doesn't move.
So, and just to add to the pins in there, one of the most common, I've been with the company 7 years plus, and one of the most common questions in a phone call I get is like, I got my brand new machine from you guys, it's on the job site, and it won't move. Like, okay, well, there's no such thing as a stupid question, so I'm going to ask you a stupid question, but it's not stupid. Are the pins in? The pins? Oh yeah, the drive pins. So what happens is we ship them with the drive pins up top here. The guy gets it out of the crate, brings it to the job site, and plugs in. He's ready to go. He's all, yeah, and then the thing doesn't work. It doesn't run. So that's the biggest question I get from job sites are, my machine won't, it's not moving. It's turned on, it's running, but it's not moving. So just a little tip is always check it. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but keep it simple.
So I said the pins are in and I can't move it, but if I actually needed to move it from here to there and I didn't want to take the pins out and I'd already disconnected from power, I could open up the valves and let it move. So all I did was push this forward, which opens the hydraulic valves, so I'm just manually pushing the hydraulic fluid through it. But as soon as I let them go, it's back in place. But if I needed to move it without power, it's great. The handle is, I can adjust these wherever you want, depending on how tall or short you are. There's transport mode, and I really like running the machine like this. And the reason why is I'm kind of leaning into it with my body weight. If it's real tall, I'm kind of pushing it with my arms. And I don't have huge guns, but I got lots of weight behind me. Bonus. So I can kind of lean into it. Because you're going to let the machine do the work, but you still have to keep these pushed forward because they're return to center. So,
another nice thing on the handle, if you're working in a spot that has, say, tables, cabinetry, countertops, fixtures, and this is a big thing in retail and residential, is that to get underneath with this machine, all you do is you can adjust it and you can pull it all the way down here. So you can get underneath that countertop height, you can get into cabinets, around fixtures and such.
underneath racks is another big thing. You want to take up some carpet? You want me to do it?
You got it. So Dave has a self-scoring blade in there right now,
I have historically called them carpet blades.
which is a generic name. I mean, guys call them
Right.
carpet blades.
But because of the marketing team is much smarter than me, they've pointed out that the self-scoring blades aren't just carpet blades. That's what we call them for years and years and years. I've been doing this forever. But they're great for sheet vinyl, rubber coatings, carpet, which is why we call it carpet blades. But anything that's monolithic, rooftop coatings, you can't use a flat blade. So calling it a carpet blade really kind of diminishes really what it's capable of doing for your machine.
Well, and back in the day, I've actually been in and around construction for about 25 years, and I used to go on job sites where guys were doing demos, and they would have a broomstick with a razor blade taped to the end of it, and they would just go along like this. They'd have one guy doing this in front of the guy that was doing this with his scraper. So the advantage of this is it actually scores it as you cut it, or as you're taking it up.
Perfect. All right, let's fire it up, see if we can take up some carpet. We touched real gently earlier on the centrics of National's machines, which is patented technology. If any of you guys have logged onto this video and you're watching this, you know those other machines, they strike the entire length of the blade.
It's just a ramming action.
And what happens, especially with glue removal or carpet or VCT, is it leaves stripes, cornrows of glue. Glue, 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 glue. If you guys look at this, there's glue residue maybe, very little, but it's essentially taking the carpet and the glue up in one pass. That is accomplished through the engineering and the design of this machine. And if you think, well, does that make a big deal? Well, if this wasn't a National machine, I'd be stripping this carpet up and then coming back with another blade and trying to go the other direction to take all that glue off, which is still very difficult because it's skipping. It's making contact with the surface while it's moving forward, then it's skipping. It's also the reason why those other machines are very loud, and there's a lot of maintenance involved because of that striking action where you guys, these machines just run. We see them come in for repair after 10 or 11 years. They're old blue machines that guys have put thousands and thousands of hours on.
And it's usually just a wear part.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, the machine hasn't imploded on itself. I mean, these things are built like tanks, but it's,
For sure.
it could be, over the years, a hydraulic pump. I mean, that's, they've had it in the field and rental for 15 years. People are rough as heck on those machines. Isolators underneath, which are wear parts, like the tires on your car. Every so many hours, you're going to need to replace them.
So the next thing we're going to talk about, why we're still on the scraper subject for small spaces, is the Gladiator. The Gladiator and the Commander look very similar. You guys, they look a lot alike, but there are differences. The Commander is really designated for soft goods, and the Gladiator is designed for soft goods and hard goods. That means I can put a carbide shank on this for removing ceramic tile. I can put a wood shank on it for removing wood floors or engineered wood floors. And if you guys, I don't know if you can see it through the video, but the wheels on the Gladiator are twice the size as they are on the Commander. So what I found is the guys that are struggling with that moisture remediation and they're always dealing with the slimy glue. They really prefer the Gladiator because the wheels are so much bigger, so much better traction. It's kind of like having a NASCAR with, little bitty Walmart tires. It doesn't work very well. You gotta have big tires that are gonna grip. So that's a great solution for that problem, which has been a problem we've been addressing for about 10 years. It's been a huge problem. Comes with transport wheels. The handle folds down. That's very similar. The side slide weights. The wheel scrapers are very similar. But you'll also notice it comes with a swivel head attachment. So you can get a razor blade swivel head attachment for this, or a standard that comes with it. You could put, so this one I can put a swivel head attachment on it. This one actually comes standard, and it has 2 different heads. Matt, you want to grab do you mind?
Nope.
It comes with a hard goods and a soft goods attachment for the front of it, which changes the pitch and the angle considerably. So for soft goods with a shank, I want my shank flat, and I want it running underneath the ceramic tile or the wood floor. With soft goods, I want a much steeper pitch. Those are super easy to change. You just loosen up the 9/16 bolts underneath the front weight, slide it in, just tighten them right back up. Doesn't take long to change it, and that really makes this machine the most versatile walk-behind machine that National manufactures for small to medium spaces. So now I can take up ceramic tile, wood floor, and all of the soft goods as well. Matt, you want to show them? Let's talk about let's show them what it looks like. So I can put a 1-inch carbide shank on this, a 2-inch carbide shank. I can put a wood floor shank on it, and with the attachment, this allows the shank to basically ride flat on the floor. So I'm sliding up underneath and lifting the material. That's the main reason why all National machines work so well on hard goods. I am not afraid to say that most machines out there work okay on soft goods, but the minute you try to remove something hard off the floor, whether it's a 550 or a National Rider, we own the industry for that. Everybody else is hitting the side of the material. We're sliding up underneath it, lifting it. So I'm constantly being accused of not adhering my tiles, or the wood floor is not stuck. When there's groups of 50 or 60 people here back in the day, I'd give them my hand scrapers and go, here, try to get it up. And they would run at it, and they can't get it to budge. I'm not cheating. It's just the engineering and design, the patents of National Machines really help you guys out for those solutions. Because in small spaces, you're going to run into wood floor. You're going to run into engineered wood floor. You're going to run into ceramic tile. You're going to run into carpet. And on the smaller machines, you actually have the ability to get them upstairs. And with the smaller machines, we make 2 different self-scoring blades. One's bevel up, and one is called bevel down. I've got them over here. So how does bevel up or bevel down help you? I don't know if you can zoom in on this, Connie, or... So the difference between bevel up and bevel down is the cut on the front of it. These are both 90-degree self-scoring blades, but sometimes you need to choose the right blade. Can you see it?
Tip the front down a little bit.
Which one? This one?
Connie's camera.
Oh. Lights, camera, action!
Good.
So this is a bevel up blade, which is designed to use downstairs. Because on concrete, you want an Evel Knievel ramp, so you want it to cut. But if I'm going to use a walk behind upstairs, I actually want the ramp going the opposite direction. So this is a beveled down blade, which is used for upstairs. And here's why. If I use a blade designed for concrete downstairs, it's going to dig in to the subfloor and tear it up. If I use a bevel down blade, it's actually going to slide right across because the cut of this is sliding right over the top of it. So it's still super effective at taking up carpet, laminate, VCT, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not going to dig into that subfloor.
Yeah, with a lot of restoration work, floods, stuff like that, where you've got your substrates are going to be moist or wet, that bevel down works the best because anything else is just going to dig right in and tear up the floor. Another spot where it works really well, I've heard, and I've actually seen it, is gypcrete. Anytime you have a self-leveler and you're taking up carpet, someone has put that down underneath the carpet, and you don't want to actually dig into that and have to go back over and put self-leveler on top. The bevel down actually will skim across the top and not take up whatever's sitting on top of your slab.
All right, so we've covered a majority of National's small spaces scrapers. We've kind of talked about some of the differences in how you get different solutions out of each machine. Starting with the lower cost machines, the lighter weight machines, moving up into, the higher cost and the higher production rates and the more features and benefits. So you can figure out what's the problem that you're looking to solve. How does each machine that we just did a little show and tell on, how does that fit for you guys? How does it answer those questions? Does anybody have any questions about anything we've gone over before we shift to grinders?
We'll give it a minute to catch up.
Do you want to talk about blades real quick before we move to grinders? Because we talked a little bit about bevel up, bevel down, and we talked about 1-inch blades. Let's talk about the differences between the thicknesses of the blades and our guillotine blades. We'll just a moment.
Remind the chat that we'll be switching after this and getting the scraper questions in now.
Okay.
So real briefly before Dave goes into this, earlier he was talking about the self-scoring blades for the carpet and VCTs. For the VCT, the standard blade has a 1-inch wing on it. Okay, so I've run into in the part of the world I'm from in the Midwest where they have double stick carpet, and basically what that is, it's a thick pile where the padding's already included. They throw it down, and the problem with the self-scoring blades is that the carpet's too thick. And so what happens, they go to tear it up and it doesn't cut all the way through the carpet. So we actually have now available a self-scoring blade with a heavy-duty blade with a 4-inch wing on it. So that will work for pretty much any carpet application that there is. So I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, normally if you haven't done that type of job, if they ask you to bid on it, run away as fast as you can. If you don't know what you're doing, it can be a real struggle. So we make lots of blades, lots of shanks. There's lots of options. So how do you look at Nationals fold out or online and figure out which is the best blade for me? Right off the bat, my answer to that is the simplest and the most frequently asked question is we make a .062 blade and a .094 blade. That's just talking about how thick the thickness is of the blade itself. So how much material is in the blade. .062 blades are designed for walk-behind machines. They're thinner, they're less expensive, and you don't have to have a big thick blade for walk-behind. But if you put a .062, I can't get it out of my head today. If you put a .062 on a rider, they tend to bend because the amount of head pressure you can put on a blade with a ride-on machine, it's too thin of a blade. So if you're going to use a ride-on machine, you need a .094 blade. And you can still use a .094 blade on a walk-behind, but usually you're spending more money than you really have to because it's a thicker blade. Now the advantage to using this on a walk-behind is it tends to stay sharper longer. You get more life out of the blade. So if you don't want to change your blades as often, you can stick with the .094s, but you don't want to put a .062 on a rider. It's not going to save you any money. Length of blades. National makes a blade that's 27 inches long. That's ridiculous. Concrete's not flat. Has lots of undulations and bird baths. And you're not going to, unless you're down in Louisiana after the hurricane and everything's been underwater for 2 weeks, and then finally they get the water to recede. If the VCT is laying there with gravity, you can push whatever's left into a pile, but if it's actually stuck, usually a shorter blade works better than a longer blade because it's going to stay in contact and stay underneath the material. And believe it or not, your production will go up if you choose the right size blade for the application. We also make .187 and .250 blades, which are really thick blades. So guys that are taking up remnants of wood floor that maybe was stuck really well and there's little chunks left on the concrete, they're going to want to use these heavier blades because they don't tend to dimple when you hit the wood. They're super thick, so they stay sharp for a really long time, and they're also really great for your thin set and your bulk heavy material like old patching. If you don't have a 1-inch blade handy, these work great for that. National has also developed a blade that really helps if you have guys on your crew that are changing a lot or that don't have a ton of scraper experience. We think left, right. We think as people north, south, east, west. So what happens when that happens is when we go to scrape, we want to go straight onto the material that we're trying to remove. So now I have the entire width of the blade trying to get under and stay under, especially when you start on an edge, which can be difficult. Guys like me, whether it's a walk behind, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I, right off the bat, was coming in at an angle, so I was catching the corner and then working my way into the material. It's hard to tell or teach somebody new that. They're going to try to hit the edge of the surface every time. So to fix that, we make what's called a guillotine blade. And it's designed exactly like it sounds. And what happens with this is when your new guy shows up, or if you're changing guys out on the crew, when he goes to hit it straight, he's actually going to start with the point, is going to start underneath it, and then it's going to work its way under. That means you can run at the edge a lot faster without popping up over the material, and you're going to get a lot better production rates just because you're not going to hit the entire length, pop up over, back up, try again, slow down. The edge is going to start in, and then the rest of the blade is going to come in underneath it. This is actually a really cool blade. If you guys haven't tried them, order a couple of them, and immediately you'll see the difference of how many times you're popping out of the material when you're starting off. They're called guillotine blades. So we literally could spend hours talking about blades, but I just want to do the high points on the thicknesses and the lengths and some of the different blades that are out there. And if you guys have specific questions about specific applications for straight shanks or 6-inch carbide shanks or 27-inch blades and why guys use them, you can reach out to National after or at any time, now or later. So, all right. Are we going to take a break and switch to grinders, or?
Yeah, we can switch to grinders. Let's ask them if they have any more questions and then get back to
Any more questions before we take a quick break and we're going to switch to grinders? You guys chat in your questions. Try to stump Matt, which is hard to do. Try to stump me, which is pretty easy. Just ask me what 2 plus 2 is. Ask me how to open a spreadsheet. That'll get me every time.
Dave's being modest here. Dave's actually, he's forgotten more about all of this than I think I know, so.
Matt's actually, he's being modest because I've seen him do trainings in front of large groups, and he's an amazing part of National, and we're real blessed that we have him here, so thank you, Matt.
And so much for the Mutual Appreciation Society.
All right, it's all yours. All right.
Do you want to talk about scoring anything before we switch off the scrapers?
We can do that and shot blasting last
Okay, perfect.
because it's so niche, basically. You can ask questions too, by the way. Don't be shy, because we all are real shy around here. Are we still live? Yes. All right, great. I didn't know if you had switched off.
No, we're good. We're still live.
Welcome back. And you didn't go anywhere. We're switching to kind of the prep side of small spaces. We talked about removing materials off of a substrate, scrapers. How do you remove carpet? How do you remove any bulk material off the top? But we haven't prepped any surfaces yet. So we're going to switch to grinders, and we're going to briefly talk about specialty scarifiers, not just the scarifiers that you guys are thinking of. And then the last thing we're going to do is shot blasting, which is my favorite, one of my favorites. So when it comes to small spaces, we have a machine called a Helix, which is a smaller grinder than this. That's 110 volt, has a light on it. It's a passive planetary grinder. We don't have one here to show. If you guys are with it, got a TV or newspaper. It's 2021. Everybody's struggling for parts. The world's at a kind of a standstill or long lines. So I don't have a Helix to show. I apologize, but if you guys want to reach out, we'll try to get you a video if you're specifically tuned in to watch that.
Also, check out, I'm going to interrupt you. Check out our YouTube channel, which you're watching this live on. When we're done, go back. We have literally dozens of great videos with all the machines. So if there's something you're not seeing here today, chances are we've got a video of it someplace. So just take some time, delve into it, and you'll find it. The Helix, I wish we had one here today. It's one of my most favorite machines we've come out with in the last few years, just because of the versatility of it.
It's modular, it's lightweight, it's got removable weights, and like me and Matt could take it apart in just no time. Has quick disconnect for the handle, for the body. We could take it apart and load it in the back of a truck in no time. You can remove the bottom tooling holders to take even more weight off. So if we had to carry it into a basement, it's actually feasible. It's lightweight enough where we could get it up and down some stairs. The 8274-4 that we're going to actually move into now, it's 110 volt, and it is a planetary grinder, true planetary, but you're still going to struggle to carry this into a basement, even though it is modular.
So Dave, can you talk about the planetary versus just a rotary grinder, what the advantage is,
Sure.
the difference?
So the Helix is a passive planetary, which means it has a disc that spins in one direction, kind of like a buffer, but it has 5-inch discs that freely spin, so they spin in the direction of the least resistance. And you actually could put diamonds right on the grind and scrape deluxe plate and do an aggressive grind, but if you want to minimize your circles in the floor, you'd put on your 5-inch passive planetary so they can turn, and it tends to leave the floor a lot smoother. And the 8274-4, this is an actual planetary grinder. Can they see the bottom of this, Nick? When this turns, when this big plate turns this direction, the plates turn in the opposite direction. So the design of this has got one Kevlar belt that's, they don't break very often. I think in my time I've seen maybe 3 that were broken, and that's generally stemmed from a guy driving it off of a dock plate or off of a stair, and it stops so suddenly that it could break the belt. It does have more flex couplers. They're more likely to break if you hit a red head or a concrete anchor in the floor that you didn't see, that somebody didn't grind down. And for those that are asking, how does that happen? Well, there's lots of patching on floors, and they'll patch right over the top of a red head or a concrete anchor, and they're not going to grind it down. They're just going to run right over it, and that patching's real soft. So a guy will be grinding along, and he'll hit that patch, and this Morflex coupler is like a donut. It just squishes together with rubber in the middle. It'll just turn, and it's easy to fix. Yeah, there you go, Matt. So this is the plate off of the Helix, and I actually have a this is what the tooling holder looks like. You can put your tooling straight on here, or you can pop these in, and then these are going to spin in the direction of least resistance. That's why this is a passive planetary, and this machine is a actual planetary. And I think most of the world in the grinding side knows the difference at this point. And then the last machine we're going to run is a GP500. It is a counter-rotational, so it has 2 birds' feet that turn inside of each other, kind of like if you could see inside of your granddad's watch. They're just turning inside of each other, and they're directional, so you can go clockwise or counterclockwise. But with a GP500 with a counter-rotational, you tend to need to move it side to side to keep it from digging trenches in the floor.
You guys call them a swing grinder.
Yep. And with either a passive planetary or an actual planetary, you typically can grind in a straight line. I still tend to move mine a little bit because I think it works high spots better, but you can actually cut in a straight line and then overlap. I still like to move mine, but I'm trying to flatten the floor most of the time to make it look good for a demo. Most of you guys out there that are doing this for a living, you could care less if the floor is flat or not, because you didn't get paid to flatten the floor. You got paid to prep the floor. So you're just going to run it in a straight line, come back, overlap, go in a straight line, come back, and I totally understand that. My goal is usually a little bit different than how much my labor and my time's costing per square foot. So right now I currently have 25 super segs loaded on this, and if you guys don't know what 25 super segs are, these are single bar diamonds that the matrix that holds up the diamonds, so the metal glue, is super soft. Why would you want that? Well, because I never stop getting the question, Dave, they hard troweled my floor and they power troweled it so tight, black and shiny, I am really struggling to break through, especially with a lighter weight grinder. You know, with the bigger grinders, you have a little more success getting through that real flat, shiny floor. And that's all the curing compounds and the sealers that have all flowed to the top. And those guys just cook the floor. Well, that's a struggle to get it opened up. Nick, there's a question.
Mike was asking if the Helix plate will fit a buffer.
So the question is, will the Helix Grind and Scrape Deluxe plate fit a buffer? Yes. But if you put it on a buffer, you're going to burn the motor out on the buffer immediately. It's not got enough horsepower, and it's not geared to take that much weight.
Yeah, so the Helix is not a buffer on steroids. It's an actual designed as a 16-inch grinder versus the buffers.
But you will find that plastic breakaway buffer adapters on there. It's held on there by like 6 screws, so if you hit a red head with the Helix, that buffer plate just breaks, and you can buy them online for $6 to $11.
And again, that's a safety feature.
Yeah, and it protects the motor and the shear pin on the shaft, stuff that you don't want to have to fix. It's much easier to take a $6 part and a Phillips head screwdriver in 4 minutes and replace it. And once again, that typically comes from obstacles on the floor that you can't see, that you're trying to remove some kind of bulk material and you hit it. It'll cause that. Normally, not just grinding concrete. That's not when it happens. So these 25 super segs, I'll go back to my tooling that's on here. These aren't designed to prep the floor. They're designed to break the surface tension. So in other words, you're just going to kind of break it open, just scratch it some. Because that material's so soft, these diamonds aren't going to last a really long time, but they're great for opening up that, you guys know what I'm talking about, that black shiny floor. It's a real struggle. These 25 super segs, especially with these lighter machines, it'll just rip right through it. And once you get it opened up just a little bit, I'd switch to probably a 16 grit soft bond or medium bond, depending on how hard the concrete is, and finish my prep with those. And your time behind the grinder, I don't know how many, if you guys have ever had a grinder and you ground it for 4 minutes, 3 minutes, and then it stopped grinding because that cure and seal and all that material, it collects up on the bottom of your diamonds and it's not cutting anymore. It's hard to overcome that. The 25 super segs help with that. If you don't have 25 super segs and that happens to one of your grinders, assuming that it's accepted and you get away with it and you're not going to get trouble, you can put it on some asphalt outside and turn it on for a second. It'll clean it right up. You take a Dremel tool with the little round belt, grind it. A majority of the guys out there will put some sand and a little bit of water and turn off their vac, and they'll grind that sand and it'll open the diamonds back up. But be real careful if you're going to use water and sand. Just play sand from your box store or wherever. Make sure you're not running your vacuum and you're not sucking any water into your vac because you'll ruin your filters.
And generally, that type of concrete, because we're talking this morning about small space, generally you're not going to see that type of super hard concrete. You may. I'm not saying you won't ever, and it also depends on what part of the country you're in.
Right.
But generally for your small space, your residential, you're not probably going to see a lot of that. And later today, when we go into the large space, we'll talk a little bit more about making sure you have the right tooling for the type of concrete you're on. It makes all the difference in the world.
Matt, you want to talk about small spaces and how this grinder fits in, how it's a great tool, especially for garages and...
Yes.
You want to touch base? You want to do some talking, or you want me to keep talking?
I'll just chime in when you miss
chime
something.
in. All right. I'm trying not to. I'm not trying to push Matt out of the way. This is his first appearance in front of a camera, and we're trying to work together. The first time marketing pointed a camera at me, I went, "Hi, I forget my name." It was a struggle, but I've kind of figured out this is the way the world's gone. And I enjoy talking to you guys this way. It's a great way to convey information. We do have some VIP members of the Surface Prep Committee that are here live in person, which is nice. So I've got a little bit of both. So it's nice to still be able to have a touch point with you guys that can't be here or it's just not possible. Okay, so the 8274-4, this is a 110 volt variable speed, soft start. Just amazing piece of engineering.
So talk about that, Dave. An 18-inch grinder that's 120 volt.
If you guys can find a planetary 18-inch 110 volt grinder on the market other than Nationals, I'd love to see it. The only 110 volt grinders that you're going to run across typically have a 10-inch cup wheel. That's a single direction. And early in my career, that's a great way to prep a floor. It's not a great way to prep a floor today. This machine actually has a switch on the side where if I have any Canadians pop it in here or guys from the East Coast that work in those super old buildings that only have 15 amp breakers, how many of that is y'all? Raise your hand so I can see you. That's a bunch of y'all, right? So if I put this on 15, the box is going to slow the motor down so it only allows it to pull up to 15 amps. I can't tell you how many times, and because I used to years ago work up and down the East Coast, and the farther north I got, the older the buildings got, the more I struggled with 110 volt 20 amp machines because they're constantly tripping the breaker. And it's really awesome when it trips the breaker on a union job site where it's locked by the union guys and they're at lunch and you have to beg them to come open it up, and they're like, we'll get to you, we'll put you on our list. And you know, they've got stuff they're doing, so they get to you as quick as they can, but it could take 2 hours literally for someone to come open a box and flip a switch, and then 10 minutes later it's tripped again. And this actually prevents that. So I'm pretty sure, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, in Canada they only have 15 amp breakers. So this is a super popular model for Canada because you can't find another 110 volt 18 inch, you know, medium production grinder that's not going to trip a breaker in Canada.
So that, and the other advantage of being a 120 volt machine is where you're going to be using this primarily is going to be in that residential, in that smaller commercial, where you won't be able to find 230. Generally, you won't be able to find any 230 power. So nice thing about this and the dust collector is 120 volts. You're in a garage, a basement, an office, something like that. You've got all of that power right there. You don't need to call an electrician. So you just get up and go.
You know, I spent a majority of my career in a vehicle on contractor sites, and I can't tell you how many times I've been standing behind a contractor and we're going to demo a 220 volt single phase machine. He's got a big old dirty cord hanging over his shoulder, and he knocks on Miss Smith's door. Miss Smith, we're here to do your garage, and we're here to hook this up to your outlet box or to your dryer or whatever. And she looks behind with her doors open. She has white carpet, and she sees that dirty cord and these dirty contractors and their dirty shoes. And she slams the door and locks it. And you can hear her on the phone going, George, these guys are going to destroy I'm not letting them in. It's pretty funny, actually. That's actually a true story. I've seen that happen more than once. And I would have done the same thing if I was her. I would shut the door and lock it. With 110, you're going to find it a lot more accessible. Anywhere you charge your cell phone, you can run this machine. Same thing with the vac. Just make sure, obviously, the vac and the machine are plugged into different 20 amp breakers. So this has 4 weights. My experience has been most of the time, and I mean most of the time, you just need to put 1 weight down on each side. There we go. This is soft start, so when I start this up, you guys will see that it ramps up real slow, which is a really nice feature for not tripping breakers. And you can change the direction of your tooling, so it has a forward and reverse.
And when would I do that, Dave?
So a couple of different times. If you're going to use PCDs or polycrystalline diamonds or 1-inch carbides, it's directional tooling. So when you put them on, the holders on the bottom, you want them cutting into the material. If you're going the wrong direction, you're just spreading it out like your wife frosting a cake. So you want it to be digging in. Another reason is it's been promoted for years that changing the direction of your diamonds every hour or whatever really helps the life of your diamonds, so they won't wear just on one side, so they wear evenly. I don't know how true I believe that is necessarily with the lighter weight grinders. I think that really applies more to the bigger 1,000-pound grinders and less with 400-pound grinders. But if you want to change your direction every hour, it certainly won't hurt anything. You do have to be in the off position to go from forward to reverse or vice versa. So let's hook up and turn this on real quick. I'm going to move this. I don't know if these two are on the same, but I know this one down here is not. Before he turns on the vac, I'm going to turn this on so you guys can hear it soft start. And This is variable speed, so I can go real slow, or I can go real fast, depending on what I'm trying to do. Put my safety breakaway on. Turn on the back. Lots of glue residue on this floor. You can see it spitting it out. So this is a great machine for production, and I want to point out one more thing that this machine will do that you guys aren't going to believe me, but I wouldn't lie to you. Been around a long time, I'm not going anywhere, so if I tell fibs, they can catch up with you. Not only does this machine grind, but I can polish all the way up to 3,000 with this. Just as good as those big, huge machines on the market. Not as fast. It's a much slower process because it's a smaller machine, has less head pressure. But I talked a little bit earlier about my little house I lived in Oklahoma. Everything was slab on grade there, and I removed all of the laminate and all of the carpet, and I went about polishing every room in my house, one room at a time, because I couldn't move out to do the floors. But my floors were absolutely amazing. This, I have done lots of trainings here for polishing specifically, where we run this machine, the GP500, the GP700, and even our gigantic GP3000, and all the polishes look exactly the same at the end of the day. Obviously, the bigger machines, I can polish a much bigger section in the same amount of time than I can with this. But if you guys wanted to polish a kitchen or a living room or a small space, this machine I can grind, polish, I could put PCDs on it. I could put 1-inch carbides. I could put sandpaper. My daughter bought a house built in the 50s in Oklahoma when she was in college all by herself, and it was a pretty rough old house, and she pulled the carpet up because it was really nasty, and there was 3/4-inch solid oak wood floors underneath it. They were in real rough shape, but I used this machine, and she used the Helix with sandpaper pads, and we actually refinished her floors, and they turned out absolutely amazing. She was so happy. She was giddy, little girl, about her floors. So the point of this is the versatility of these machines. A lot of those machines on the market, you're limited to what you can do with them. With the Helix and the 8274-4, I can put sandpaper 5-inch pads, Velcro. I can put PCDs for taking up old thin patch. I could put 1-inch carbides for removing glue. I obviously can grind and prep a floor. I can polish a floor. It's just amazing at all of the things that you can do, which really helps you as an end user to get that return on investment that you're looking for. Because, if you spend money on a package, you want to be able to use it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You don't want to be able to tell 4 guys, well, I can't do that. That's out of my scope. All I can do is grind a floor. If they go, can you remove this thin set? You say, yes. Can I remove this glue? Yes. Can you grind down this floor, this old wood floor, and make it smooth? Yes. The more that you can say yes, the more profitable you are, and the more return on investment you get on your machines, and the busier you stay as a contractor, which is the goal that we all want. We all want to stay busy. We want to be able to make the most money that we can out of the money that we spend. Matt, what you got any guys that are using this that have given you any feedback?
Yeah, actually, over the years, the gentlemen and women, the contractors that are doing the smaller polished jobs, they love this machine. The Helix, little smaller, lighter weight. That one, really, I would not recommend ever using that for polishing. It's great for removal and prep. Garages, I mean, basements, bathrooms, that sort of thing. For the size of what it is, it really is a phenomenal little machine. And the nice thing about this machine and the Helix, even if you're running the big monsters, you're going to have spots where those won't fit into. So that's where this is a complement to any other contractor that's doing basically any type of prep or polishing.
I have lots of guys that have big, huge monster planetary machines, but they don't get very close to the wall. This machine gets you really close to the wall. So they've actually got a guy that runs around the outside with the 50s and then the 100s and the 200s, et cetera, polishing just the outside so it helps match because their big grinders aren't getting very close. So they're trying to minimize that visual difference that you always see on the edge.
And again, this is, we're talking about small spaces today, and advantage to this, there's a lot of people doing their basements, spend a lot of money on their basements, and while this is heavy, it's manageable if you have a crew of a couple folks. It breaks down, you can take the weights off, take the handle off, and you can actually get that downstairs if you have a heavy duty, a dolly. So, and you'll be able to polish with it, which the smaller grinders that are in the same class, you really can't polish with them. Questions? Haven't had any good questions for a while. What do you got for us? Well, Dave is over there plugging this in. GP500. So, yeah, and again, this all comes back to small spaces. One of the things to reiterate what we talked about earlier, big thing is manage expectations. As you move up in the size of the machine and the scope of the machine, your what you can do becomes greater, and also your production rates go up. So that's kind of what we're showing here with the GP500 now.
I'm going to move my vac a little closer. The closer you get. Matt, you want to talk about the GP500?
GP500. So this is a newer machine for us, and it fits a great little niche. It's a high production machine at a value price. Would be the best way that I could describe it.
You're spot on, Matt.
It is a counter rotational. So as opposed to the 8274, which has the three satellites, this actually, Dave talked about it earlier, it has two heads that kind of spin in on themselves. Okay, that's it's a heavier machine, a little more versatility with the types of tooling. It is small enough and light enough for two folks to move it, which is really an advantage with a high production machine like this. Has removable weights on it. It has a work light. It has a USB port on it, variable speed, lifting handles, removable weights. It is a 230 single phase machine. So now we've kind of stepped away from the 120 volt machines, which you can run anywhere. This one you'd more than likely be running in more of a smaller commercial type setting, a restaurant, any retail type places, they're generally going to be able to find power for this. It's a single phase machine, which is what most of your 230, 208 power is going to be, that you're going to be able to find out there. Just real briefly, now that we've stepped up to the bigger machines, 230, 208, depends on what part of the country you're in. It depends on how old the building is. Generally, we're running this here off of
208.
208, okay.
That's all I had. The
Okay.
electrician that showed up said I want 230 single phase. He's like, you can have 208. I said, I'll take it. Because it's what I could get here in Denver, Colorado.
And generally, residential is going to be...
Yeah. Lots
20
of guys are using this for... I'm seeing a ton of insurgents for small spaces such as garages, and the guys are just buying generators. You pair this up with the right generator, run your vac and your grinder. This is variable speed. It is counter rotational, and I guess it's wet or dry. One of the things I really like about this machine is I can't carry this probably in the basement, you guys, realistically. It's too heavy, and it's not modular in that kind of fashion, but it actually comes with 2 lifting handles, and if I had to
Up steps.
up a couple of steps,
Yeah, absolutely. Into a restaurant or an office building.
or a ramp, if you just need a little extra, these just go in the front here. So this is one lifting point, the other's the other, and these 2 that are actually right on the machine make the other lifting point. It's amazing. What I really like about it is what Matt said was the versatility of this machine and the production for the dollars invested is something that I'm super excited about. Has a positionable light, so you can put it wherever you want to. We're going to turn this on. You want to turn on my back? Ah! Of course. I forgot my hose adapter.
So rule of thumb, never run one of these grinders without a roll of duct tape close at hand.
Trying to keep my hose in there, but
So Dave is running this right next to where he ran that 8274. I don't know if you can see it on online, but he's basically done, in the time it took him to do this small spot right here, he's done a space that's 3 times larger. So again, it's a high production, value priced machine.
so if you guys want to get a whole bunch of production done in a short amount of time, this is a fantastic grinder option for small spaces. If I was going to knock out a garage, standard 2-car garage, this is the machine that I would love to have. I would be all over it. All right, we got to keep moving so we don't run out of time. Scoot this out of the way. I'll do it.
Real quick, Dave, let's talk about safety. Usually lead off with it in the morning. I know we had a lot of stuff going on today, but just talk briefly about safety with all of the machines. When you're changing blades, when you're lifting them up, when you're changing tooling, what's the number one rule?
Disconnect it from the power source and wait 15 minutes. A lot of these new machines with smart boxes on them, the capacitors can hold energy for up to 15 minutes. That means it can be unplugged from the wall. You could come back with a screwdriver from the toolbox, open it up, touch the box, and
Get lit up.
Which is bad.
We had a question about GP500. How does the double disc work for undulations in the slab?
Great question.
I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
How does the double disc work for undulations in the slab?
So the question is, how does the GP500's kind of rotational bird's feet, if you will, tooling holders perform with undulations, so the low spots and the high spots in the floor? With the GP500, it has fairly soft to medium rubber versions of a Morflex coupler. So it does fine. If this is a problem that you're constantly running into and you're trying to solve, I would suggest, which I don't have here, but we have videos, we have a model of the grinder that's similar to that called the GP700. And the GP700, we actually offer soft, medium, and hard Morflex couplers. And what does that do for you? If you put soft Morflex couplers, if you're trying to prep a floor and you don't care how flat it is, which is a majority of us, because nobody's paying anybody to flatten a floor, almost never happens. The soft Morflex couplers, when you install them, allow the feet of the 700 to transverse and fall into the low spots. The medium Morflex couplers, they are somewhat rigid, so sometimes you still have to work the high spots a little bit to get in the low spots. And then there is an occasion where a guy will reach out to me and say, Dave, I want to flatten the floor, but I'm taking the low spots and the high spots down kind of at the same rate. I just really want to work the high spots and flatten the floor. I want the floor flat for whatever reason, robotic forklifts. Then you'd put hard Morflex couplers. They basically don't allow it to move hardly at all, so you have to work the high spots off of the floor before it will prep the undulations in the floor. This is what thanks, Matt. You're the man. This is a Morflex coupler. Basically, it's just two pieces of steel smashed together with rubber on the inside. So this does two things. With the conversation we're having, depending on how hard this rubber is, it allows it to either move a whole bunch, just some, or not move at all. But it also provides a safety for the gearbox of your machine and your keyway. So if you hit something in the floor or drive it off of a dock plate or stairs, this just comes apart, and usually the feet hit each other and it makes a ton of racket. And as an operator, you probably invent a few swear words while you're running away, but shut the machine off right away. But it's super easy to replace and fix, and it's not a real expensive part. So to address that specific question for a solution, if you want to flatten a floor, or if you constantly run into floors that are very poorly placed and finished, and you're struggling to get in the low spots, probably the GP700 for small to medium spaces might be a great solution. And you want to put the right kind of Morflex couplers, probably the soft ones, so you can prep the floor and not try to flatten the floor. Because I still say constantly, nobody's paying me. If they're paying me to prep this floor, they're not paying me to flatten the floor. If you want to pay me to flatten this floor, it's great. When I'm done with the job, I'm going to retire, because it's going to cost you an awful lot of money to flatten the floor.
And then we also had what diamonds were on the GP500 when you were using it, and which size portable generator would run the GP500.
It depends on the generator, and the question is what size generator for the GP500. It depends on the generator, but we have a chart that gives you a rule of thumb, And I don't know who's asking that, but I can get,
Yeah, I think it's Becky, so she's just talking.
Minneapolis can send you the engineered chart
15.
minimum.
I would say for the GP 500 and the DL 3000, I would say you probably want to start at a 15 kW. You can get away with the 12.5, however, no guarantees. So I would say to be safe, a 15 kW would be where you'd want to.
My problem
go
with the
with that.
12s are I think that they struggle to put out enough power to keep up. I think it's hard on the motors
Yes.
of the vac and the grinder. So you're saving money on the front side by buying a cheaper generator, but you're damaging your equipment for the long-term run. Bigger's always better. Undersizing generation is never a good idea.
And there's so many rental options too. We have partners that rent these machines that also rent the generators. And generally, if you're renting this, and I would say with these larger machines, before you invest in them, call us. Let's send you somebody who actually has these machines, and you can rent them before you buy, and see if that's actually the machine that you need for the job. Also, going back to earlier this morning with the walk behinds. I mean, we have partners all over the country that have these in their rental fleets. And if it's, if you're on the fence, you're thinking about it, maybe you're just getting started, you're doing larger projects, call us. We'll get you in touch with one of our rental partners and try it before you buy it. Okay.
And then can you talk about what tooling was used on the GP500?
Zeros. They were.
Zero mediums, I believe, or zero softs?
The question was, what kind of tooling did we put on the GP500? So my concrete here in Denver is the hardest concrete on the planet. I think that the last time we did a bunch of tests, it was around 7,000 PSI, which is great for demo concrete because I could keep demoing it without it disappearing like concrete in Florida. The downside is to get it to open up and to cut is a struggle. So we had 501-000s, which is a soft bond because my concrete's really hard. So it's an aggressive diamond with a very soft matrix, which allows me to cut into the surface. You got to match your diamond.
Yeah, and I think later on today when we're doing the larger space commercial, I think we'll talk a little bit more about the diamond tooling and the different types of concrete that are in different parts of the country. It actually is very amazing that even in a space like this, there could be the concrete in the back corner was poured on a Friday afternoon. The sun was shining. It was gorgeous. Guys come back on Monday. They're pouring this side of the warehouse. It was rainy and cold. So that's going to affect the concrete. I know they say that the standard is 2 PSI. Is 2,400, 6,000 are kind of the industry standards. However, that does vary depending on where you are in the country and what type of aggregate is used in the concrete. So we'll talk a little bit more about that this afternoon.
Sorry, I was getting a 15 to 20 amp adapter. So I'm excited about this tool actually. It's called a Scarifier, and don't tune out because everyone's going to go, ooh. Scarifier destroys the concrete. It absolutely does if you put tungsten carbide tip. If you go to a rental house, you rent a Scarifier, it is going to have a drum designed for bulk concrete removal. Concrete has slabs have curled, but what people don't know is there's tons of different teeth, and there's different options that you can slide right on. That's the drum that you're going to see more or less everywhere you go. That's for bulk concrete removal. Can you guys see the drum that's on here? These are TSR teeth. And as a kid, we called them Chinese throwing stars. So these are designed to pick away at glue, thin set, patch, and it leaves basically a shot blasted like profile on the floor. So we're going to take up some glue real quick, some thin set that I have on the floor real quick, just so you guys can see what it can do. It's actually a really, really awesome little 110 volt tool. So, you want to talk about that matter? You want to do that next? Connie, can you see the glue that's on the floor over here? There's tons of really thick glue that's got left behind for some reason when we scraped. So we're going to turn this on and see if we can't pick this off the floor right quick. Oh, you turn on my back? So you guys, that's super thick glue that's on the floor. It's gone. Over here, we might have to move that grinder. Sorry, we got a lot of equipment in a fairly small space. This is left over from some tile. Can I cut this blue cord? Get the rest of the day off? One more quick demo on this harder glue that's been down a lot longer. This is some kind of carpet glue that's been here forever and ever. Ready, Connie? It's not very flat right there. So if you guys can see, it's even prepped the concrete a little bit, but it hasn't destroyed the concrete. That's a huge benefit, especially if this is thick soft glue. It's really hard to get up. You usually can't shot blast real thick soft glue. It won't work. If you try to grind this, it's going to get hot and smear. It's a struggle. So this is a great lightweight small spaces tool where I could go in and remove glue and any kind of soft material and not destroy the concrete surface. Huge benefits to these machines that are missed out on all the time. We're going to do one more demo with this because it applies for small spaces, which is how do you get up 3/4 inch wood floor? There's tons of old houses with it out there, and it is hard to get up. So I think the easiest way to do that is to score it. And we're going to change this drum as soon as I unplug my machine. And we're going to score some wood floor to show you another application for this. Scoot this out of the way.
Yeah, actually, the nice thing about this wood scoring drum is it allows you a little more, depending on you, if you're using this with a walk behind, which would be the HD or a rider. The the wider, the more space you have between here, obviously, the wider your cuts, the tougher it's going to be to take it up. So if you're using this with a rider, you may want to take out this middle one just to increase your production rates. But with an HD, you're going to want to keep both these blades on here, because what it does is it scores it down with manageable size to get out. And that's one of the things with removing wood flooring, engineered flooring, anything solid like that. What you're going to want to do is score it before you try to take it up. And what that does is it basically takes that 10-foot piece and turns it into a 5-inch piece. Laws of physics say it's a lot easier to remove that.
Super easy to change this drum. Pop the cover back on there. Thanks, Matt.
Back in the day, and actually still, gym floors, sports courts, anything like that, those are big removal jobs. And what guys would used to have to do is take their skill saw, their circular saw, set it to just above whatever the substrate is, and get down on their hands and knees and just score it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to make it manageable sizes to take out what's down. Nice thing about this is you're taking one guy 15 minutes that might take 3-4 guys an hour or so to do the same job.
Well,
So it's working smarter.
Nice part too is we have a vacuum attached to this. That old-fashioned way of doing it, it puts
Blowing sawdust everywhere.
I mean, you'll fill the whole place up with dust. This is a lot better. I'm adjusting this blade down so it's going to cut really deep. So we can cut through the 3/4 inch.
And you will run into this in residential in certain parts of the country where it's slab on grade. I know in the South, like Texas, the Southeast, California, in our part of the world where I come from, we have basements, so you don't see a lot of this stuff glued down. But in other parts of the country, that's what they're doing.
Can you pull the back this way a little bit for us?
And we did have a question.
Yeah, question.
What size saw blade for the Scarifier to cut hardwood? So
Is that a six
I
and a
don't
half
know.
inch? I believe it's a 6.5 inch or 6 inch.
I can
It's
measure.
a specialized blade for these because of the drum it fits on. The arbor is very specific. Yeah, it's got a hex arbor to it. Looks about
So
six.
it fits the shaft. All right. Rock and roll. You guys, that would take an awful long time with a skill saw. I mean, I could have done that whole thing in, I don't know, 15 minutes. And then it's easier to clean up. It's easier to remove. Nice little tool. We're running out of time, so we're going to shift to shot blasters really quick, and we'll just kind of jam through it.
So, Dave, when would you use a shot blaster in a residential or a smaller application?
So the reason why I like shot blasting is nothing is faster, more efficient. Shot blasters clean and profile in one easy step. That means I don't have to run a vacuum. When you grind a floor, it doesn't matter what vacuum you use, you have to go back with a wand and a floor tool to clean up the remainder of the dust. With a shot blaster, all I really have to do is walk around with a 24-inch sweeper magnet, and I'm ready to put my coating down. There's a lot of guys that'll grind, vacuum, auto scrub, wait till it dries, and then put their next whatever it is they're putting down. That's labor intensive, and it takes quite a while for that to do. So then the next question they ask me is, well, Dave, why would anybody buy a grinder? Because there's limitations to a blaster. A blaster won't take up this thick soft glue on the floor. It won't take down high spots on the floor. I can't polish with it. I can't put PCDs on it and take patch up off the floor. So if I'm running around and I was Dave's garage business of Denver, I'd probably have an A95 shot blaster, 110 volt, and I'd probably have a grinder as well. That way I could solve a lot of different problems, but every chance I got to use my shot blaster, I would shot blast that small space because I can get it done faster with less dust, less cleanup, less labor, and your cost per square foot on average for running these small shot blasters compared to a grinder is a lot lower, which means my profitability goes up. So remember, like as a mechanic, I can't just show up and go, all right, I got a wrench, I'm going to fix your car. It means I'm not a very good mechanic. I have to have lots of tools in my toolbox. That's what this is all about for you guys. What tool fits the best solution for the problems you're trying to solve?
There is no one
Right.
tool. You talk to any carpenter worth his salt, ask him how many saws he has.
I mean, I love a shot blaster, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the answer every time. I might have to put some shot in this. Let's see. Don't know who's been using this, but it's been used. Ah, perfect. We're just putting some steel media inside the hopper.
More?
Yeah, there's not very much in there. There's just a little bit left. Will you throw just a little on the ground for me?
Yep.
Matt's going to put a little bit on the ground for me so I can load my magnets. So the shot sticks to the 3 magnets on the bottom of it, which creates a curtain.
So, Dave, is shot blasting scary?
Shot blasting is like riding a bike. If someone gives you a bike and says, here you go, good luck, probably not going to like your bike very much.
Nope.
If your dad holds on and teaches you balance and talks to you and works you through it, after a little bit, you're never giving up your bike until someone gives you a motorcycle or a car. You're not going to walk when you can take your bike. Your bike's the best thing ever. Shot blasters the same way. We're going to do a quick demo, show you guys what it'll do. But I want you to understand, if you guys are interested as making this a solution for you in small spaces, reach out to me and we'll do one-on-one. I'll teach you about how to make pattern adjustments, how to make the machine work, make sure you understand the limitations of the machine and where it performs the best.
And we'll be talking more about that later today and tomorrow with both this one and the larger shot blasters.
Right. All right, fire and hole. Ready? I will give anybody on the planet, I'll take the challenge. I'll give you a 2-car garage. I'll do half with the shot blaster. You do one with one of these big grinders and it's just clean concrete. I will clean and profile at an alarming rate. And I'll show up with my Ford Ranger. This weighs 100 pounds. Get help. I'm going to lift it out by myself because I'm going to lift it out. I'm going to roll the back out. I'm going to plug in. I'm going to be done in no time. And my coating on my side, because the shot has so many impacts per square inch, my coating's never going to come up.
Nope.
It's not coming up. Once it's down, it's going to stay down. I'll warranty it forever.
So, Dave, the big thing now is folks doing their garages. They've got their fancy car now. They want their fancy floor in their garage. So, what is the most common reason for failure of those coatings? And generally, it's a flake epoxy that they're putting down. What's the most common reason for those types of failures?
I have made my career out of contractors not prepping the floor correctly, or not doing it the right way, not doing enough cleanup. So there's nothing wrong with grinding. If you remove all the dust off the floor, you get hills and valleys and mountain ranges. Still a great way to prep the floor. But if you don't clean the floor, whatever you stick down to it, it creates a failure because it's going to stick to the dust, not actually soak into the slab. I recommend everybody do a dime test with a drop of water, 10 seconds, soaks in, should be the size of a dime. But prep's the most important thing you can do. We talked a lot about scrapers, which is fantastic. Everybody needs to remove whatever's on top. But when it comes to prep, if you're not doing, I can't be a contractor because I spent my life on jobs where something has failed. And it's almost always because somebody cut corners. So if I was Dave's flooring service, I would never cut corners. I would do everything the right way, and I'd probably never make any money because I would overdo everything that I did. I couldn't possibly hurry it up. I would overdo everything. But you still have to do things the right way. Otherwise, if you don't have time and money to do it right the first time, as a contractor, you certainly don't have the time and money to go back and do it a second time and redo the floor. So it's better to do it right the first time.
Callbacks are killers.
Yep. Ah, that's a great tagline. I like that. You should patent that. All right. Does anybody have shot blasting questions?
We're wrapping up.
I'm running out of time.
We're on the clock. Stump us. Give us something.
Anyone? Bueller?
I guess we talked about everything this morning. We covered every single thing that there was. Rare.
We're coming back this afternoon, a couple hours? 2 hours. For medium spaces. We're going to talk about some
bigger machines, higher production rates, kind of the same applications, but just beefier.
Ooh, where's the beef? Wrap it up. I'll take it. Anyone? No questions.
Bueller?
So if you have questions,
Bueller?
I think we stay on for a minute or two after and monitor it, and we'll try to answer your questions in chat. But thanks for attending.
Absolutely.
Hope you guys learned something. Hope this was educational. Hope this was fun. Come back in 2 hours, and we're gonna do this for another couple hours this afternoon with some